into the net. It's an interesting matchup actually between the goalies as well, between Paul Lewis and Yuri Prychus. Two excellent goalies here, so we'll see how that one develops as this game progresses along as well. And we're just about set for the drop now. Raz looks, drops the draw, won by Evanston. Back goes Tisdale with Grispo. Grispo, as Tisdale tried to dump it out, Grispo got his leg in the way, centered it through to the far side. And Ezio Berrettini flicked it into the zone. Berrettini playing with a bum shoulder. Dumped down into the zone. Back behind the net, Doug Tisdale. Tisdale playing with a wrist that's still bothering him. Busted it in a football game. Berrettini sweeps it into the zone and then gets bumped off the puck. Now to Vahey, couldn't get the shot away. Scott Dean kept it in the zone. No, he didn't. Offside. Offside against Lake Forest. And we'll move it back down outside the zone. Just underway in this one. Stay with us. We'll be there all season long. There's Bob Hildreth. Sans hat tonight. First time I've seen him without his hat in a game for a while. The drop, the draw, near side. Flicked into the zone by Ritter. Back behind the net. Watercoat sent it to the far side and out and cleared by Elfie Hazard. All the way down into the zone, and that's going to be icing against Evanston, and it is. This one, we expect a lot of whistles in this game. And so far, we haven't been disappointed. We haven't even played a full minute yet, and already we've had two. And we'll move it back down into the Evanston end. And we're set. Halecki, pair of number 11s, Halecki and Saul Skrocky will face it off. Waiting for the drop here. The drop and the draw. Picked up on the far side by Harrigan, and he couldn't control it and swept away from him, and here come the Wildcats back up the ice. McGinty was the head man. Jiski broke up the pass over to the far side. Harrigan now picked away and sent up ahead by Watercoat again, and now busted away by Halecki. Halecki tried to flick it off the boards and out, now picked up by Hazard. Hazard, his boomer, is high and wide, and we lose the puck out of the ring. Ran it up on the board, on the glass, and then it kind of flicked away. Well, with that loss tonight to by Neutra Green, that's going to make a big difference on the top three here as far as the standings, and it'll also make a big difference in the state standings, I would think. We wait for the drop. Drop the draw, near side. Blum. And a heavy check back behind the net over to the far side, and Berrettini flicks it out to center ice. Tisdale will come down with it for Evanston to the near side and out and cleared out. Scott Dean comes over on the near side, and Dean flicked the puck away. Blum backhanded it ahead. Into the zone comes Kirby. Chris Kirby with the shot high to the far side. Berrettini down, they go with the puck kind of underneath them there, and the puck is free, and they got to kick it and push it along a little bit. And now swept out to the point. Scott Dean flicks it back down into the zone. Just kind of backhanded it there. Over here on the near side, intended for Bernick misconnections. Blum dumps it right back down into the zone. Lewis left it behind the goal line. Tisdale to the near side. Benji Bernick. Bernick centers it up ahead. And out come the Wildkits. Cross the red line and then flicked it in on the line change. Scott Dean. Dean will bring it up the ice. Scott Dean gets up his head of speed. Dean tries to flick the corner. Dean still tries. Dean takes it behind the net. Dean centered it in for Vahey. Shot out to Dean at the high slot. Dean works it in a little bit. Tried to flip to the backhand and couldn't do it. Now Dean has it again. Scott Dean. Dean. Shot and the save. The shot by Ritter from the far side. And now Dean will go off on the line change. Near side. Jiski gave it into Ritter. But when you watch Scott Dean pull some of those moves, you wonder if he's just playing with you a little bit. He controlled that puck like incredibly. Jiski from the high slot. The shot, the save by Lewis. Got his stick on it. Back behind the net. Right into Vahey, and he oversticked the puck. Centered out by Berrettini. Dumped to the far side. This is almost like a power play. Berrettini up to Vahey. Vahey turned around through the slot to the near side. Picked up by Scott Herbst. Herbst out to the point. Held in by Jiski. Jiski to the far side and over an underled Berrettini. Dumped and cleared out of there. And that's going to be icing against the Wildkits, and it is icing against Evanston. .10:17 to play in the period. .10:17 to play in the period. Face-off to take place over on that far side on the icing by the Wildkits. The drop, the draw. Out to Scott Dean. Dean flicked it over right into the slot. The shot dribbles wide. Ritter got it. Now Lewis dumps it back behind the net. Tisdale to the far side. Pearson. Scrocky was underled. Now Scott Dean gave it right to Hazard. And off Hazard's body. Hazard bumped heavily by Scott Dean. The puck squirts back behind the Lake Forest goal to the near side. And Halecki busted up the centering pass. Pushed along the boards. And out to center ice. Underled on the pass intended for Harrigan to the far side. Pearson. Picked up by Ritter. He flicked it into the zone to lay offside. Now Scott Dean. Scott Dean turns it around, and Dean brings it up the ice. Scott Dean triple teamed off the ice, off the puck. Blum turn around, and now the whistle on the offside. And they're going to call it intentional and move it all the way down. Intentional offside against Lake Forest. The face-off going to take place inside the Lake Forest end. 9:20 to play here in the period. No score. So far, none of the goalies have been tested. I don't think Evanston's even had a shot on goal yet. In fact, I know they haven't. There's the drop. Out. Now the shot was wide to the far side. Turnaround attempt, and now there's a shot in there and the save, and Price just grabs it and holds on. And a little pushing afterwards. Vahey and Bernick having a few words. I think that's Vahey, isn't it? Yeah, Vahey and Bernick had a few words. And now the face-off to take place on that far side inside the Lake Forest end. On the Metro Chicago Sports Network, Lake Forest and Evanston. Cleared out, Grispo, 2-on-1 break. Grispo couldn't turn the corner, now fed it for Berrettini behind him, out to Jiski. The shot, the save by Lewis, and he flicks it out off the stick. And we lose the puck and gain the face-off. Ran it up into the netting. And Jack Rezlowski's going to warn him. Next time he pulls that, that will be a delay of game call against him. And I think that's precisely what they were arguing about. Oh, no, I take that back. It was a mouth guard. Scott Dean had lost his mouth guard, and he was wondering where it was, and it turned out that the linesman had picked it up. Scott Dean back into his own zone. Dean, the forechecker, is Chapman. Dean controls. Dean centers it up ahead and out and cleared out. Watercoat, Jesse Watercoat, fed it ahead. Herbst and Blum, and they both missed it. Scott Dean will flick it all the way down. That'll be icing, and it is icing against Lake Forest on the big blast by Scott Dean, just trying to clear it out of the zone. As we said, we expect a lot of whistles in this one, and so far we haven't been disappointed in that on that score. Oh, they're going to call that offside first. Or it must be offside. Blum dumped it to the near side. Up ahead, here comes Halecki with the boomer, and that's way high. Deflected off a stick of Evanston. Lake Forest has allowed the fewest goals against so far this year, just 15 in Metro North. The drop, and out to center ice it goes. Eric Blum. Blum gave it over to Scott Dean. Dean triple teamed and bumped by Hazard. Berrettini. Berrettini tried to center it. Now Berrettini tried a second time. Scott Dean knocked up and knocked the man down, but now here comes Evanston and flicked off the stick. McGinty got it into the zone, but he got triple teamed off the stick, off the puck, before he could get the shot away as he busted it in. 7:57 to play in the period. Dean took the man, but the puck was squirted ahead. 7:57 to play in the period now. We have an offside at the face-off. Still having some problems over there on that far side of the face-off, delaying the drop of the puck. There's the drop. Pearson tried to feed it ahead, couldn't do so. Near side. Swanson ahead for Bernick, busted up by Jiski. Jiski gave it to Janettas into the zone offside, and it is offside. Janettas got labeled at the blue line, and in doing so, it created an offside. And we'll have another face-off. And again, a little extra fooling around going on over there on that far side on that face-off. And Jack Grzelowski going to get between them and say, look, knock it off. Put the space between you, or you're going to get a penalty. The drop, the draw. Into the zone. Swanson gave it up to Berrettini. Down Berrettini went, nothing called. Far side. Dumped and cleared all the way down, and that's going to be icing against the Wildkits, and it is. As we said, we expected a lot of whistles in this one, and we're certainly not being disappointed on that score. This is the halfway point in the season, technically, although Evanston won't reach that point until their game this Saturday versus Neutral Green. Everyone else will reach that point, either have already reached the point, as in the case of Highland Park and Neutral Blue, or will. Scott Dean. Dean over to the far side, shot a goal! Grispo! Keith Grispo with the goal. Scott Dean set it up nicely. Everyone looking for Scott Dean to take the shot on that left wing, and instead Dean found Grispo on the back door near side, and Grispo had all the time in the world with Paul Lewis down, and it's 1-0 Lake Forest. Grispo with the assist to Scott Dean at 7:19 of the first period. Into the zone. No, they didn't get it there. Berrettini bumped off the puck, dumped in by Vahey. On the near side, Tisdale with Grispo. Grispo saw the pass coming, got his leg on in front of it. Now saw Scrocky. Scrocky on the far side. Gave it up to Hazard. Hazard to the near side on the modified breakaway, I suppose I would call that. McGinty to the near side. Centered. Scott Dean got his stick involved in that a little bit. Now picked up by Vahey. Vahey to Berrettini. Berrettini sweeps it into the zone. Berrettini in the corner. Berrettini bumped. Now back behind the net, Grispo. Doug Tisdale, the forechecker. Saul Scrocky. And now to Lewis, and Lewis will hold it down on the ice on the centering pass attempt. .6:29 to play in the period. And the face-off coming up on that far side. Here's the drop for Ritter, and he couldn't control it as it flicked through the slot. out to the point. Jiske back to Ritter. Ritter couldn't control the puck, took it away from Swanson to the far side, and Bobbin and Ritter now picked up and cleared out of there by Evanston. Up ahead comes Benji Bernick. Bernick stops, the shot, the save. Halecki had it briefly. Now over here on the near side, Jiske, and it went underneath his stick. Bernick and Jiske. Now picked away by Mike Jiske. Jiske will bring it straight ahead. Vic Halecki to the near side. Todd Ritter. Ritter with the blaster and just wide to the outside. Walcott held it in the zone. Far side, Luke O'Connor fed it and cleared it out to center ice. It wasn't Luke O'Connor. It was Justin Bobbin that cleared it out. Now Halecki. Near side, Ritter. Ritter brings it in, shot, the pad save, the rebound, puck's free and in, the goal! I think Halecki got it, went off the post on the near side and then in, and I think it was Vic Halecki with the goal. At 5:20, and it's 2-0 in favor of Lake Forest. And we're ready for the drop. The drop, the draw to the near side. Tisdale fed it ahead. Blum busted it up into the zone. Scott Dean will retreat behind his own net. Scott Dean straight ahead to the far side, and it's offside anyway against Evanston. Offside against Evanston. .507 left to play here in the period. The drop. Blum fed it ahead for Grispo. Grispo bumped off the puck, dumped down into the zone. Matt Pearson for Evanston. Straight ahead out to Blum. Blum held it in with his skate but couldn't control it. Tisdale backhanded it out and ahead to Andrew Chapman. Andy Chapman gave it up to Scott Dean. Dean lost the edge on his skate, and down he went. Near side, Grispo into the zone. Pearson with Berrettini to the far side. Out and cleared. Vahey, Scott Dean, Berrettini, near side, Grispo into the zone. Grispo, heavy check, Vahey. Tisdale with the set down, the shot, the save, and now Lewis Clamson holds it. And we'll have a line change as we have another whistle. Metro Chicago Sports Network, glad to have you with us. We have 2 more games left before the holiday break. Our next game is Evanston versus New Trier Green, and then we have Lake Forest and Highland Park. As we start the second half of the season, Highland Park and Lake Forest, that was the same as our first game on the network this year. Ended up a 3-2 Lake Forest victory. Halecki booms it wide over here on the near side. Jiske, McGinty took it away. McGinty back behind the net to the far side. Walcott underneath him, and up comes Alfie Hazard. Hazard with the shot, ran it into Halecki's leg. Halecki and Hazard to the corner. Saul Scrocky comes up with the puck, centered it to McGinty, couldn't come up with it. Walcott dumps it and clears out to center ice. Into the zone come the scouts. Harrigan, and he didn't know where it was in his skates. Now Vic Halecki, and he overskated it, never really controlled it with his stick, did with his skate. McGinty busted away from him by Ritter. Hazard and Harrigan and Halecki, and they all kind of push it along the boards there at the blue line, picked out of there by Halecki. Ritter avoided the check, 2-on-2 now. Ritter bumped by Scrocky. Hazard dumps and clears out of there all the way down, and it deflected somewhere. There'll be no icing. Far side, Berrettini couldn't control the puck. Scott Dean. Dean centered it right to Swanson. Flicked at it with his hand and sort of controlled it. Now Scott Dean. Dean 2-on-1, 3-on-1. Berrettini, the boomer, to goal! Berrettini with the blaster. Assist to Scott Dean. And it's 3-0, Lake Forest. Well, as we said, there's a lot of emotion, although it doesn't seem like it perhaps on the game. There is a lot of emotion tied up to this one because of the Loyola game, the Loyola tournament game between these two teams. Scott Dean with a stick move, and he actually ended up leaving it. Now we got a penalty coming up on Evanston, and the whistle and the stoppage on Evanston for hooking. That was Scott, hooked Scott Dean as Dean came back to try and get the puck. Well, we'll set a pair there. 2:22 to play in the period, and Lake Forest with the man advantage. Scott Dean's been moved up from the defense up to the forward position now to drop the draw. Dean gave it back to the defense, near side Jiske. Jiske dumped it into the zone. Lewis left it to the far side, directed it to the far side really. Now picked up by Tisdale. Tisdale dumps and clears it. Halecki will start it up the ice. Halecki by the man, near side to Berrettini. Berrettini tried to pass it to Scott Dean, and at that time his stick was kind of caught up. Now near side. Halecki. Give it to Jiske at the high slot, to the point, and Dean fanned on the puck. Now Dean comes in again. Dean shoots and boomed it wide. Berrettini to Scott Dean. Dean shoots off the post. Out and cleared out of there. Pryches will shoot it ahead to Berrettini. Berrettini crossed the red line. Berrettini into the zone. Berrettini stopped and lost control of the puck doing it. Now he canes it back. Gave it right to Hazard. Elfie Hazard dumps and clears it out. And Bob Hildreth is in fine voice here tonight. Up ahead for Berrettini. The shot wide to the far side. Scott Dean. Dean avoided the check. Dean again with the move to the corner. Scott Dean back behind the goal line. Backhand shot, a goal! Well, he's certainly putting on a display tonight. 2 assists and a goal. And it's 4-0. Nothing in favor of Lake Forest. And of course, that's all the more important that Lake Forest wins tonight, because Loyola has already beaten New Trier Green. Jiske to the far side and gave it up into the zone, offside. Way offside. 34 seconds left in the first period. And the face-off about to take place. Vahey will face off with Herbst. Wolcott out and cleared out of there and right back into the zone. Pryches will leave it there to the near side. And ahead. Out and cleared to center ice. Watercoat, far side off Vahey's leg. Ritter. Vahey off the side of the net. out and cleared out of there. Jiske, and he lost it trying to put his glove down to it. Chapman turned the corner, got the shot away and the save, the rebound, and now swept away, and we got a penalty for interference coming up at the end of the period. At the end of the first period of play, we'll start the second period with Lake Forest being down a man. The score is the Lake Forest Scouts 4 and the Evanston Wildkits nothing. This is the Metro Chicago Sports Network. We'll be back with the second period in just a moment. Underway with the second period on the Metro Chicago Sports Network, Lake Forest and Evanston. And Lake Forest well in command at this point, 4-0, as we begin the second period. Lake Forest will have the man in the box, however. Now picked up by the Wildcats into the zone, dumped in there by Justin Bobbin. Hazard to the far side. McGinty, Steve McGinty, looks for the backhand, got the short little backhand away, and Price just clamps it and holds on the side of the net there. And we'll have a face-off coming down in front of us. I imagine Chris Snine is taking a particular interest here in the two goalies because he's a former goalie himself. The drop, the draw, out to the high slot and flicked right out of there by Justin Bobbin. Near side, Doug Tisdale. Tisdale got it into the zone. Scott Dean got his stick in front of it. Blum comes up with it. McGinty and Blum to the corner. Scott Dean. Dean flicks it out of there, dumps and clears all the way down. Paul Lewis stopped the puck but didn't control it. Over to the far side, Tisdale. Tisdale fed it up ahead to Bobbin. Now picked away by Scrocky. Scrocky to Tisdale into the zone offside. McGinty came in ahead of the play. Minute 10 left in the minor. 13-10, of course, left to play in the period. Seeing how the penalty started at exactly 14 minutes of the period. The drop, the draw. Wolcott ran it off Pearson. Now Swanson has it in his own zone with Berrettini, the forechecker. Up ahead and busted away. Vahey had it, busted away from him into the zone. Flick check, another one, and Vahey comes up with it and dumps it out to center ice. Swanson, Pearson, back over to Swanson, and up ahead for Bernick. Bernick dumped and cleared out of there and all the way down. Lewis to Swanson. Swanson on the near side, 25 seconds left on the minor. Something metallic just fell on the ice, and now the whistle and the stoppage of play on the icing against Evanston. 21 seconds left on the minor. Mike Jiske, the player getting the minor for interference at the start of the period. A Spartan crowd tonight. I shouldn't say that with Glenbrook North in the league because they're the Spartans. Okay, I'm sorry. Give me a break. It's okay, so I have a sense of humor, you know. Out and cleared. Wolcott dumps on all the way down. And 10 seconds now left on the Lake Forest minor. Head man for Chapman, and they've picked up by Halecki to Scott Dean. And Dean will flick it down into the zone, and the penalty now expires, and teams are back at full and equal strength. Busted up by Ritter. Ritter will go to the corner with it. Harrigan couldn't get into the slot. Ritter couldn't control the puck out to the point. Blum keeps it in with his leg. The bouncing puck, the save by Lewis, and he'll hold it. And now some pushing afterwards by Jesse Watercoat. Yeah. I can make jokes, but I can't say the kids' names. Isn't that wonderful? 11:47 to play in the period. Off the ice goes Andy Chapman, followed by Doug Tisdale. Out to Jiske, the shot and the save, and deflected again out of the rink We lose a puck and gain a face-off. Now we'll have a face-off again in the Evanston end. The drop, the draw. The puck picked up by Halecki. Halecki got by McGinty, and now out to the point. Jiske holds it in, got the shot, and was busted up by Dave Swanson. Swanson to the near side to Alfie Hazard. Hazard into the zone. Hazard with Walcott. Hazard to the far side, centered it, busted away, picked up by Halecki. Halecki ahead for Hergen, off his skates, underlet him with the pass. Alfie Hazard dumps it back down into the zone, off Jiske. Jiske back behind the net, and then got bumped by Scrocky to the far side. Ritter, centering pass was busted up by Swanson, and then Swanson tried to backhand it into the zone and missed the puck. We got a penalty coming up on Lake Forest. The shot ran into traffic. And now the whistle. We got a penalty for holding coming up on Walcott, I believe. John Walcott, a minor for holding. Yep, Walcott, a minor for holding. He was trying to stop Steve McGinty, I believe it was, in the slot there. And he got a little over rambunctious with it. And Jack Roslowski decided to call it down. What's interesting is Jack was telling me that he's leaving right from the rink tonight, going up to Madison, and he's going to referee the WCHA game tomorrow night, Western Collegiate Hockey Association game between shot a goal! But he's going to ref the game between Denver and Wisconsin. And it's 4-1. Line change time. Bernick fed it in beautifully. Scott Dean. Dean brings it in. Dean around the corner. Dean tried to center it. He'll try to get the shot late. Now Dean right in again. Shot. And the save. Grispo got it. Got the deflection attempt off the Scott Dean shot. And the face-off going to take place on the near side inside the Evanston end. Dean got the shot away, and Grispo tried for the deflection, and as it got to Lewis, he sprawled himself out and managed to get his glove on the deflection attempt by Grispo. The drop back to Scott Dean. Dean the blaster, and the save by Lewis ended up deflected in a bouncing shot. Now out to Scott Dean, and he'll backhand it into the zone. Picked up by the Wildkits, and down the man goes into the zone. Nice dive by Scrocky. Penalty was not called on Scott Dean. Back behind the net, Blum near side. Scott Dean will have it again. Dean bumped by Scrocky, out and cleared out. Tisdall, far side. Blum, bouncing puck. McGinty offside, way offside. McGinty was deep in the zone. 9:56 in the second period. And it will be line change time here. Again, our next game on the Metro Chicago Sports Network is the same Evanston Wildkits against the New Trevians Green team. The drop, Evanston dumps it into the zone. Scott Dean bumped around a bit. Near side, Harrigan. And Scott Dean going to get the penalty on the retaliation here. Coming back on him. After the guy held him, Dean gets the minor for interference. Scott Dean a minor for interference. And Evanston in the mouths saying some words here. And Bob Hildreth saying something to Scott Dean. The drop, the draw, the shot, the save by Prychus, and now he'll clamp it. Had a little trouble controlling the rebound. Or controlling the shot, actually. It wasn't a rebound, it was just the initial shot. And here comes the face-off. Near side, Bernick. Out to the point. The shot, the save by Prychus. Turnaround shot, busted up, out in front. Picked up by Ritter, and he dumped it ahead. Now Ritter will pick it up off his own dumping pass to the far side. Out and cleared out. Halecki had it in the skates a little bit, now into the zone. Busted up on the centering pass. Berrettini back the other way. Ezio Berrettini, the blaster, the shot, the save by Lewis, and now as he dropped it, it was a little late, and the whistle blows on the stoppage of play. 1:23 left on the Lake Forest minor. I don't know. I have my questions about whether that was interference. I think maybe the initial hold in there, and then Dean came back. I think it was just a matter of Jack Grozlowski was going to stop any retaliations, and that's the reason to call it a penalty, although it looked like a clean check to me. Picked away from Berrettini, dumped it, Berrettini dumped it out to center ice, or was it Ritter? One of the two. Anyway, back down behind the net, Doug Tisdale, a minute left or so, approximately, left in that minor. Ritter got caught up a little bit in the skates. Scrocky busted away by Halecki. Halecki into the zone. Scrocky and Ritter controls. Ritter ran it into a body. Now Halecki couldn't get the shot away. Picked up, no one picked it up. Ritter skated by it and then made no effort to go after the puck. Now it's picked up by Ritter. Ritter will dump and clear it past Doug Tisdale all the way down into the zone. Doug Tisdale. Tisdale started up the ice. He misplayed the puck at his own blue line to the far side. Bernick dumped it into the zone, near side. Berrettini bumps the man. Berrettini playing it real cautious tonight, I noticed. Vehe, I think Berrettini playing it cautious with the shoulder, and now the minor over. The team's back at full strength. Berrettini has it at center ice to Vehe, into the zone. Near side, Ritter dumped it deeper into the zone for Berrettini. Berrettini centered it. Ritter briefly, and Tisdale just backhands it out to center ice to Bernick. Bernick with Scott Dean to the corner with the puck. Now picked up. The centering pass, dumped and cleared out of there by Lake Forest. That's going to be icing against them, and it is with 7:01. I was going to say exactly 7 minutes, but 7:01 to play in the period. Well, everybody else should just about be done at this point, based on their starting times. And we should have some scores for you here coming up shortly. We'll have it for you at the third period, I guess. The drop, the draw. Wolcott to the far side. Swanson, he overskated it a little bit. Scott Dean behind the goal line. Dean avoids the check, and here comes Scott Dean. 4-on-2 to Vehe, head manned. Vehe looks on the give and go to the far side. Back to Vehe, shot! Ran off the side of the net. Out to the point. No, couldn't get it. Halecki had retreated too soon. Back into the zone. Scott Dean busted it up. Dean just left it, though. Now the whistle. We got a penalty coming up for holding on Dave Swanson. Swanson a minor for holding on Evanston. At 6:25 of the period. And Lake Forest will move to the man advantage here. And I think some of the angers and the frustrations now beginning to show themselves a little bit. I think initially they came out to play, and then they have now gone to a little animosity and a little bit of that frustration. Tisdale out and cleared out to center ice. Picked up by Ritter. Ritter to the near side. Berrettini bumped off the puck. Scott Dean ranged off the point. Dean bumped it along the near boards. Now hit a second time and a third time, and the puck squirted out of there. And now a whistle and a hand pass. Well, some pushing going on afterwards. And we got a penalty on Scrocky coming up on top of it for hitting Scott Dean across the back as these incident began to develop here. And there will be a penalty on Saul Scrocky for roughing at 9:57. 9:57. And it'll be Lake Forest with the two-man advantage. And Bob Hildreth again making his, having some words with Scott Dean, trying to settle him down. I think the problem we have, that Bob has here, is that Evanston at this point is going to key on Scott Dean, and he's trying to hold Scott's temper in check, because boy, I'll tell you, Lake Forest really needs Scott Dean to be out there on the ice. Into the zone. You need all the players, and you know, you just don't need penalties anyway. Ritter into the zone. Ritter fed it to the back door. Shot a goal! Eric Blum with the goal. And it's 5-1. Ritter the goal. Ritter the assist. Blum, Eric Blum the goal. And it's 5-1. A minute 40 left on the minor. Near side. Jiski. Fed it to the far side. Vahey. Vahey to the near side. Berrettini. Berrettini with Pearson holding him. Out to Blum. Blum, the shot, ran into a leg out front. Held in by Chris Kirby. Back behind the net. To the near side. Jiski. Centered. There's the shot, the save, grab, then held on. .906 to play in the period. Boy, the Loyola players must have come right from the game. I noticed there are two Loyola players that are just leaving the rink, and they have their bags with them even. Still have their equipment bags and stuff with them. .906 left to play in the second period. 5-1 Lake Forest. And slowly but surely we will have a face-off again. There's the drop. Blum couldn't keep it in the zone. Jiski did. Picked up by the Wildkits, though. Dumped and cleared all the way down. Uri Price just left it back there for Chris Kirby. Kirby to the far side, and Chris Kirby will bring it up the ice. Chris Kirby straight ahead. Kirby to Jiski. Jiski. Offside. Berrettini tried to stick his foot down on the blue line, and he couldn't get there. That's one where you look and go looking and looking and looking and looking like crazy for that blue line with your foot, and he never did find it. There's the drop. Scott Dean. Dean with the sweep move. Berrettini. Scott Dean. Dean brings it, shot and a goal! Scott Dean with the goal, and it's 6-1 Lake Forest. Drop, the draw, Halecki. Near side, Scott Dean. Dean backhands it out. Cleared out to the red line. Harrigan dumped it into the zone. Pearson. Far side, Blum. Bouncing puck. Nobody controlled it. Now Blum has it again. Blum takes the shot. The save. Grabbed and held on. And we'll have a line change for the Wildkits. They're going to change it up rather quickly here. They're down 6-1. I think even though we're seeing a lot of whistles and it's a small crowd, I think in fact the intensity of the Lake Forest Scouts is certainly showing by their determination to put that puck in the net as a sort of revenge grudge match for that that Evanston game versus Lake Forest in the tournament. 6-1. There's a shot, and Prychus will hold it with Bernick coming in on the goaltender. The whistle stops play. .347 to play in the period. And Lake Forest, 2 goals by Scott Dean, 2 assists by him tonight. Grispo, Berrettini, Blum. I think I got it all. There's another goal in there, isn't there? Scott Dean. Give it to Blum. Blum ahead and out to the point, held in the zone. Vahey. Blum. Backhands it out to the blue line. Scott Dean muscles his way out. Now Dean double teamed off the puck. Up ahead, 2-0. Berrettini and Scott Dean. Berrettini to Dean. Shot and a goal! Hat trick for Scott Dean. And it's 7-1. Right down on the defense. And a 2-0 with Berrettini and Dean. And they're not going to be denied with a... Not very often. And it's 7-1. .323 to play in a period. Wolcott, far side, Jiski, near side, Harrigan off his skate. Wolcott dumped it ahead for Harrigan again, and Harrigan dumped it into the zone. Near side, Wolcott, dumped deep, back behind the goal line there. And up ahead, out to the point, and headman misconnections. Jiski flicks it back down into the zone. Picked away by Chapman. Down the men go. Harrigan flicked it just barely into the zone, back out to center ice. Ritter brought it into the zone and back out again. Jiski, he got bumped off by Chapman. Jiski comes up with it anyway, dumps it deep into the zone, back behind the goal line. To the far side. And back over on the near side now. Chapman. Into the zone, double teamed. We got a penalty coming up on Lake Forest. For holding on we'll see. There's a whole slew of them going a full line change here. On John Walcott, no, he walked right by it. Who got the minor? Walcott, I believe, with the minor. 2:12 to play in the second period. 7-1, Lake Forest leads. And we still have a whole period yet to go. This one could get ugly with the behavior problems. We'll see what happens if we get a lot of penalties in this third period. Flicked away from Scrocky by Scott Dean to the far side and Pearson. Near side, Alfie Hazard over his stick. Back down into the zone, Scott Dean. Dean will slap it and clear it all the way down. Lewis for Swanson. Swanson centered it. Up ahead for Scrocky. 2-on-2. The boomer by Hazard wide to the near side. To the far side, McGinty holds it in the zone. Dumped and cleared out of there. Back goes Pearson. Pearson will bring it back up. Centering pass. The headman busted up by Blum. Now here's Dave Swanson. Swanson into the zone. Scott Dean flicked it off his stick. Gave it to Hazard, though. Now picked up by Berrettini. Pearson, rather. And now Swanson dumps it back into the zone. Blum to the far side. Vahey. Vahey flicked it out to center ice. And now Vahey slowly with Swanson gave it into Berrettini. Berrettini tried to turn the corner, couldn't do so. Near side, Berrettini to the far side, and Swanson, and dumped and cleared and ran into, I think it was Jim Sawyer, the assistant coach. Or was it Bob Hildreth? Looks like it's Bob Hildreth. Bob Hildreth got hit with the puck, head coach of the Lake Forest Scouts. And the slapper trying to clear it ahead. And apparently he's cut. Got cut with the puck a little bit. The drop, the draw, near side. Scott Dean backhanded it into the zone. Now Halecki tried to find Ritter, couldn't do so. Or shoulder, it looks like. Shoulder or neck or something. Into the zone, the shot wide to the near side. Turnaround shot, save. To the far side, Scott Dean. And we got a penalty coming up for hook, high stick. Or played with a high stick against Lake Forest. 2 seconds left in the period. No, it is a penalty for high sticking on Jiske. Mike Jiske, a minor for high sticking. Time of the penalty, 2 seconds left in the period. So we'll drop the puck and go with it. And we'll finish off the period here. Sneaking offside was Benji Bernick on that far side, and that'll delay things down a little bit. And there's the drop and the draw. Dumped and cleared out of there, and that'll do it. At the end of the second period of play, the score is the Lake Forest Scouts 7 and the Evanston Wildkits 1. This is the Metro Chicago Sports Network. And we'll be back with the third period in just a moment. Couple of interesting scores tonight, to say the least, and we'll get to those as the game progresses here. We have an opportunity. Dump down into the zone. Lake Forest will be down a man for that high stick at the end of the game, or was it holding? Holding at the end of the period there. There's a shot to save. Near side, we have a whistle and a penalty. And Scott Dean, I think, for high sticking. No, it's not Scott Dean, it's Eric Blum. The way Scott looked frustratingly at Jack Grozlowski, I thought he was the one that got it, but no, it was Eric Blum that gets the minor for high sticking at 13:45. So now Lake Forest will be down 2. Let's get, well, we'll hold off till after the penalties here to get the scores on the division. The drop, no drop. Now the drop and the draw. Peter Figo tried to get it out to the point. Now out to Swanson. There's the shot, the save by Prychus. And Vahey dumps and clears out of there. Lewis will leave it for Swanson. Dave Swanson will bring it back up the ice. Swanson straight ahead. Near side. Intended for Bernick. Bernick and Dean. Bernick up, left his feet to hit Scott Dean and just sort of grazed past him. And I think the Lake Forest fans, rightly so, were calling for the charging call. Far side. Walcott dumped it back to the blue line. Swanson. Near side. Bernick. Bumped into the zone offside. .54 seconds left on the first minor. Minute 11 left in the second. 12:56 in the third period. Left in the third period. 7-1 Lake Forest in the lead. And Bob Hildreth, I guess, got hit on the elbow with the puck, is what I heard. And he's having trouble even bending it. Scott Dean dumps and clears it all the way down. Lewis, near side, gave it up. I think he meant to give it to Tisdale instead Pearson. Far side. Give and go, headman to McGinty. McGinty into the zone. McGinty tried to turn the corner around Berrettini. Near side. Lake Forest down by 2 men. Tisdale, the shot, the save by Prychus. Good job by him following that puck right into the glove through the traffic and the sticks. 12:30 to play in the period. 45 seconds on the second minor, 28 seconds on the first. And we're set for the drop. The drop, the draw to the near side. Scott Dean. Dean brings it straight ahead. Dean, round 2, 3. Last man, Tisdale. He got by him. Shot and the save by Lewis. And we have a penalty coming up for high sticking. On Evanston. On Alfie Hazard. Hazard a minor for high sticking. And now Lake Forest will only be down 1 man, and that'll only be for 14 seconds. Then we'll skate equal, and then Lake Forest will have the man advantage if everything stays the way it is now. The drop, the draw to that far side. Now Halecki couldn't get his arm down to control the puck through all the sticks and gloves and arms. Bernick on the near side. Benji Bernick brings it straight up the ice. Bernick to the far side. Swanson busted away. Here's Ritter in on the breakaway. Ritter in, shoots and scores! Todd Ritter with the goal. And it was a smart time to do it, because had he waited 5 more seconds, and actually Lake Forest would not have had the power play. Would have killed a power play. As it is, now they will have a power play situation. We're skating equal on the ice for another 5 seconds. 8-1 now. Lake Forest well in command of this one. McGinty to the far side. Dumped into the zone, and the Lake Forest miner over. Now Lake Forest with the man advantage. McGinty near side. Intended for Fiegel. And now Swanson out to the point. Halecki knocked it down. Halecki trying to get by the man. Got his leg kind of caught up in the sticks. Puck's along the line, now picked away by Fiegel. Backhanded it, intended for McGinty, misconnections. Behind the net, over to the near side. Is that Roger LaRosse? I'm not sure exactly who that is. Jiski ahead, out to the blue line, held in the zone. No, Harrigan has it. Harrigan to the near side, give it to Keith Grispo. Grispo dropped past it. Drop pass again, and nobody there, but Halecki busted it away briefly. Now picked up by Swanson. Swanson dumps it around to the near side. Out to the point, Mike Jiski. Jiski bumped a little bit. Jiski. Now Harrigan picked it out of the crowd. Swanson flicks it out of the zone. Bouncing puck, and Harrigan dumps it back in the zone. Harrigan being muscled off the puck, and Swanson controls. Dave Swanson to the near side. Vahey, the long shot, the save by Lewis. Not a very heavy shot taken. Near side and out and cleared. And dumped back down into the zone. First man in is Nick Janettis. Janettis turns the corner. Swanson ran it up off a leg. Back Vahey. Gave it to Janettis. Janettis in, shot saved, the rebound, and Lewis had it, but ended up sweeping it back behind the goal line. Hand pass, Blum, and that'll wash it off. Fiegel ran it right off Reslowski. Saul Skrocky with the puck. Knocked away from him by Chris Kirby. Back behind the goal line. Now over here on the near side, Watercoat. Ahead for Fiegel. Fiegel fed it up ahead into the zone. Man open in the slot. Lake Forest sweeps it away and brings it back up the ice. Vahey into the zone. Vahey drop pass. Busted away by Skrocky. Skrocky will go back the other way. Skrocky ahead for Tisdall. Tisdall into the zone. Flicked off his stick. Everybody sort of stopped and let the puck sort of stand there. Now into the zone. 2-on-2. Kirby. Shot save. Rebound. Out to the point. Blum will dump it deep. Skrocky. Busted away by Vahey. Skrocky to the far side. Vahey into the zone. Tried to sweep around Tisdall. Couldn't do so. Got a penalty coming up on Pat Vahey. Into the zone. Near side. Vahey, I think, with the trip. And the whistle on the stoppage of play. And Pat Vahey going to get the minor. Pat Vahey minor for tripping. Time of the penalty, 8:35 of the period. On an 8-1 game. The other scores tonight, as we mentioned already, Loyola beat New Trier Green 3-1. It was Deerfield with a 2-game winning streak. They defeated New Trier Blue tonight, 3-0. Glenbrook South over Highland Park, 4-3. Glenbrook North squeaking past Barrington, 5-4 tonight. Out to the slot. Swanson fanned on the puck. They've got the man advantage, Evanston does, near side boards. And out and cleared. Ritter. Into the zone. Ritter, they shot the save. Back around the boards to the far side. Kicked at to the corner. Back to Jiski. Jiski on the far side. Gave it ahead. Just flicking out of harm's way. Jiski will dump and clear. Swanson back behind his own goal line. Berrettini, the forechecker, to the far side. Wolcott will just flip it a little deeper into the zone. Now over here on the near side, and ran into Chris Nine, the linesman. On the near side, and looking for the hand pass, it's cleared. Swanson will dump it in, the long shot, the save. Jiske will slap it out and clear it out and back in, and that will be offside, and this time they'll move it all the way down, calling it deliberate and intentional. So we'll treat it like an icing call and move it all the way down into the Evanston end. 8-1 the score in favor of the Lake Forest Scouts. A hat trick by Scott Dean, 2 assists in addition to that. 2 goals by Todd Ritter tonight. Grispo with 1. Berrettini with 1. The drop and the save. Eric Blum with the other, and now offside at the face-off. Or they'll call it that it was frozen by Paul Lewis. And we'll have another face-off coming up. And a little offside back behind the play there. There's the drop. Doug Tisdall. Scott Dean at the red line. Tisdall. Back out Scott Dean. Dean plays a little move around. Dean centered it over here to the near side, out to the point, held in by Blum. The boomer ran into traffic out front, flicked out of there and cleared. Scott Dean with the bouncing puck. Dean turns it around, back the other way. Dean around the first man. Dean, two men, deflected, hand pass, and they let it go. Near side, Blum dumps it down. And Lewis leaves it behind the goal line. Doug Tisdall. We're equal on the ice. Berrettini drop past it to Dean. Dean turns around and just flicks it in back behind the goal line. Near side, Tisdall. Scott Dean knocks down Tisdall. Blum, far side, Vahey. And now into the zone. Give and go to Ritter. Ritter looking for the hat trick. Shot save. Hoecki. Shot, save, the third shot, up and in. We got a penalty coming up. A boomer's wide. We got a penalty on Evanston coming up. Blum, the shot, and now Clampton held down to the ice. And the whistle. And now Bernick in ahead of the play. And I think we're going to get a penalty coming up on Benji Bernick. No, Raslowski's going to let everything go, it looks like. Coincidental minors coming up. Coincidental minors coming up here. Bernick will be one of them, and no, it wasn't Bernick. We've got a bunch of minors here. Little Chinese fire drill time. And we'll look and see what we've got on the penalties. 2 on Evanston for the roughing and 1 on Lake Forest. And Jack Grozlowski commenting here a little bit, or are we going to have 2 and 2? Could be Todd Ritter with the 2 on 2. 1, 2, 1. On Lake Forest. No, 2 on 1. 2 on Evanston, 1 on Lake Forest. I thought Benji Bernick should have gotten that one. Bernick was the one that came in initially and started that. There's a shot to save, the rebound, shot, a goal! Ezio Berrettini, and it's 9-1. We're supposed to be at running time. We're in the 3rd period, running time. And they have not started it. Well, they goofed it up. I'm going to take this tape in and I'm going to show. I'll take this game into the league directors and show them that they don't know about the running time rules. No? Wow. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. It's not my job. Not my job, man. On the far side, there's a shot by Pearson, ran into traffic. Around to the near side. I'm just commenting that actually on that 8th Lake Forest goal, we should have been in running time here in this one. and we're not. And they haven't been yet. On that far side, it's 9-1 Lake Forest. Dumped and cleared out of there, Swanson. Dumped and cleared into the zone, and the long shot and the save, Jiski. That's why these things end up with these little altercations when they get up this bad. And as emotional a game as this is, frequently you get these things running out of hand a little bit. Near side, Vahey into the zone, 2-on-1. Vahey, the shot to save by Lewis, and he'll have to drop it. Now the player comes back in, and Swanson gives an extra little push. 4:48 to play in the period. I goofed it up. I said something else before. It's 4:48 to play here in the third period. I don't know what time. I'm looking at this clock, and there's so many lights out on the minute, I can't really tell. But now I can look, I can see 4:48. This is supposed to be running time in the third period here at this point. 9-1 the score. The drop, the draw. Near side, Tisdall. Gave it back to Bobbin. To the far side, Scott Dean missed it. Dumped ahead. And Halecki to Blum. Ran it off Tisdale. Scott Dean around the man. Dean again. Dean brings it in. Dean on the backhand shot. The save. Free. Kirby had it briefly. Tisdale into the zone. Blum. Blum will bring it straight up himself. Blum, the shot, the save, and Lewis will hold it. 7 seconds left on the coincidental minors. And a wholesale line change. Everybody going to change up their lines now. Ready for the face-off. Going to take place down inside the Evanston end. The drop, the draw, out to the point. Bouncing puck. The C's parted, and Paul Lewis made the save. Swanson, the minors are now over. The teams are all copacetic at this point. Although with the Berrettini goal, the teams now, Evans is a man still waiting in the box for the whistle. They're still skating equal on the ice, however. Out and cleared to center ice. Pearson fed it back to Swanson. Ahead for Pearson. Bouncing puck. Centered straight ahead. Kazaza couldn't come up with it. Back behind the net. To the far side. Dumped in deep. Walcott to the corner and out ahead. Ritter. Todd Ritter. Ritter into the zone. Ritter looked for the hat trick. Drop pass for Harrigan. Now Janettis couldn't get the shot away. Ritter lunged at it a little bit briefly. Heavy chops. Dumped it out to center ice. Bernick. Cleared out to the blue line. Fiegel. He's bumped to the boards. Benji Bernick. He's bumped off by Blum to the far side. Vic Halecki back behind the net. Jiski got a penalty coming up on Blum for interference. High sticking on Eric Blum. The drop, the draw, Scott Dean. Here comes Scott Dean. Dean will start up his rush up ice. Dean into the zone. Scott Dean stops in the corner. Dean centers it to Berrettini, looking for the hat trick. And Berrettini missed the puck through the slot. Out and cleared. Halecki, you got a penalty coming up on Berrettini. Ezio Berrettini will sit a pair for interference. Interfered with Andrew Chapman. And we've got, appropriately enough, a Christmas tree up on the board right now. All those penalties up there, 1:58 left to play in the period and the game. To the far side, Halecki. Scott Dean. Dean just made a little stick move. Dean now grabbed and held. Swanson, and Swanson will go off for holding. That's why this game should have gone to running time, is you get stuff like this. So, 3:29 left to go in this one. 3:29 will go up on the clock. 1:50 left to play in the period. Walcott into the zone. The shot is saved by Lewis to the far side. Up ahead. Into the zone. The shot, no, never got it. Never took the shot. Took the slap with the stick and missed. Back behind the net, Lake Forest to the near side. Ahead, here comes Vic Halecki. Halecki, Jiski, hit it briefly. Halecki centered it over here to the near side. Jiski. To the far side, Walcott. The shot, the save. To the near side, Jiski. Jiski. Swept away by Tisdall to the near side. Up the ice. Mitchell to Tisdall. Tisdall tried to turn the corner. Preachus now net moved and the play whistled down. 46 seconds left in the third period. Well, as we said, we expected this one to have a lot of whistles in it, and we certainly have not been disappointed. (9-1) Lake Forest in command on this one. To Scott Dean. Over to Jiski. Jiski fell down with the puck under him. Now Jiski got bumped off the puck, near side, and up ahead. First Lake Forest Miners over, and first Evanston Miner. Only one penalty for each team left on the scoreboard, and they will both end that way. Scott Dean being held, nothing called. All over his back. Now we got a penalty coming up for holding. Do it. Final score, Lake Forest 9 and Evanston 1. Join us for our next game. This is Mark Braun from Evanston saying so long, everybody.